Hey guys, what is going on? It is DaBoki here once again, and it's time for another relationship advice video. Today I'm going to be talking about learning a lesson. Now before I start this video, I just want to know how many of you guys have had a bad experience just with relationships in general, because relationships have their ups and downs. There is no relationship that is just perfect, as in you need to have those tough moments in order to learn, in order to grow. Now, I mean, even though you guys are not in a relationship before, I think we've had that experience. I can safely say that you've had a crush on someone or you liked someone, but you just couldn't ask them out, or you couldn't even start the relationship, or you got rejected even, and you know, sometimes we take that pretty hard. There is a lot of people out there that just want to forget everything. If they had a bad experience with a relationship, they just want to forget it, suppress the memory, never think about it again, and just kind of forget that it ever happened, and they just kind of go, okay, I'm gonna move on now. Now that's not a good thing to do, because you always need to learn a lesson from an experience, whether it being good or bad, and that's something that we always forget to do sometimes, that we forget to learn the experience. Because okay, sure, so let's say hypothetically you had a relationship, it was pretty long, and all of a sudden there's a really bad breakup, and then now you're really hurt and you just want to forget about that whole experience. Well, that was a really big chunk of your life, so if you can't learn a single thing from that and just forget that all happened, that's not good, because you could turn around and make that mistake over and over again. So you want to prevent yourself from making that mistake. Now that being said, you don't want to hold on to the past. You don't want to be living in the past. You want to be living in the present. And a lot of people do that, right? They play the what if game. They say, hey, what if I did this differently? What if I did that differently? Oh, we could have been so happy together, and all that kind of stuff. And they keep holding on to those good memories, and they don't want to keep moving forward. And that's really dangerous, because you want to make sure that you keep going forward, that you accept what happened, and that you accept that it's done, it's over, and that you learned the lesson, and you're going, and you're stepping, and you're moving forward. Now, all that being said, you know, I wanted to go ahead and take this time to tell you guys a little bit about my first love. And because after my first experience of quote-unquote love, I never wanted to love again, okay? I said after that, I was like, I'm done. I'm never gonna love again. I'm gonna live by myself, gonna buy a dog, a house on the ranch, and shoot pheasants all day long. Now, a lot of you guys have heard the story already. It was on my Minecraft video a long time ago. I did talk about my first love, but I thought this story would be fitting because, well, it's learning experiences, and I definitely did not want to learn one after this experience. So this happened about, I don't know, 9 years ago or so, in middle school. I was in 7th or 8th grade. I kind of forget what year it was. All those years just kind of colliding together, but I do remember that day for some reason very vividly, and I do remember how I felt exactly, and it's just crazy. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and start off with you guys, little DaBoki in middle school, just kind of, you know, enjoying life, and then all of a sudden, Mayu comes along. Now, Mayu is this little Japanese girl, okay, and she was my classmate, and I had a humongous crush on her, and I really wanted to date her, and for some reason, you know, I just really liked her, and I really wanted to be friends with her, and she was just so cool, and I finally mustered up some spirit, some courage to go ask her out. Now, the way I asked her out was not just by going up like a man with my cojones in my pants and say, hey, Mayu, do you want to go out on a date with me? No, I wrote her a note, you know, one of those notes that you put in the locker, say, will you go out with me? Yes, can you please reply at locker number 642? You know, something like that. So, but the thing was, I didn't even give her the note. Alright, I didn't even drop the note off in her locker. I gave it to one of her friends to give to her. So it was like this chain of command where the note was being passed around by many different people, and it finally reached her. Alright, and so after the end of the day, about 6th period or so, I was, you know, going to my locker, about to go to science, and I open up my locker, and a little piece of paper falls out. And I rush to it on the ground, and I scramble for it, and I open it up, and it says yes. Now my little DaBoki heart was going, I was just so excited. I remember my hands were sweating so fierce, and I was just like, oh my goodness, you know, I have a girlfriend, and I was like freaking out, and I was so excited. I was on cloud 9, and I was walking to class, you know, everyone I was seeing was like, hey, man, what's up, Arthur? Yeah, I got a girlfriend now. And I was telling everyone about her, you know, just walking to class. They told me like 10, 20 people. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, like in the classroom, in science class, I was just so excited. I didn't hear what the teacher was talking about. But then all of a sudden, you know, after telling the story so many times about my love of my life and how we're going to live and grow up to be old and, I don't know, do things couples do all the time, hold hands at movie theaters. My mouth started to get a little dry, and I started to get a little thirsty, so I went out of the classroom to go to the drinking fountain to rehydrate my mouth because I was telling a lot of people that I had a girlfriend, and it was a pretty important day. So as I was going out, I took a drink of water. 1, 2, 3, that's enough for me. And I looked over my shoulder, and there was Mayu sitting there studying against the locker. And she was through a passing period or something, or she had an off period, and she was sitting there, and she looked at me, and I was like, hey. And we said, hey. And I was like, yeah, cool. And I was like, so you're studying? And she's like, yeah. And I was about to go in class. I was like, okay, well, I'll see you later. That was my girlfriend right there. And I was like, I was about to walk into my classroom, and she was like, David? That was the first time I heard her say my name, and I was like, oh, yes, Mayu, what do you want? And she told me, I don't think this is gonna work out. Oh my goodness, my heart sank to the ground, to my feet, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And I went back into the classroom, and I had to tell everyone that we broke up. Now, our relationship seriously lasted for like, 15 minutes? I guess it was better than one of Britney Spears' marriages, but I was like, wow, that really sucked. And I felt like she just took my heart. Like, I gave her my whole heart with that note, and like I signed it with my heart, and she took it and she just stabbed the living poop out of the heart. And I was like crushed, even though it was like in middle school and we were so young and there was nothing really happening. I got really heartsick and heartached, and it was really weird because I missed a week of school after that because I was just so depressed that I think I made myself sick. And my mom, I think, knew something was up because, I was in my room listening to Blink-182. It was like, my emo days. I was like emo for a whole week. I was like crying and listening to Blink-182, like, oh, all the small things in life. And I was just like, I was so upset, and it really got to me. And I just wanted to forget the experience. I was so heartbroken. It was so awkward for the rest of the semester because I guess we didn't have semesters back then. It was middle school, but it's like, I don't know. It just felt like I never wanted to love again. I never wanted to date another person. I thought girls were evil. They use you. And I felt definitely used. But the thing is, though, the experience of it was really good because it taught me not to rush into things and actually get to know someone a little bit better before you want to go ahead and make that step. Because Mayu and I never really talked before. I stared at her across the classroom a few times, creeperish like, but that's about it. And I think that the great experience is that get to know someone before you actually want to start making that commitment because you think she's cute or you think they're kind of cool. I mean, at least say hello to them before you go ask them out. So that was my little experience, my little first love. But I want to go ahead and know some of your guys' experiences, maybe some of your guys' first love stories and your heartbreaker stories. Oh my goodness, girls are evil. No, I'm just kidding, girls out there. You guys are great, wonderful. Just, you crush a lot of boys' hearts and dreams. Make them want to be old men hunting pheasants with one dog named Rocky. Alright guys, well this has been DaBoki. I've been rambling on for a little bit now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be seeing you guys later.